Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 41st episode of Visioncon Live, your go-to nerdy talk show. I'm your host, Zach Wilson, but you didn't come here to see me today. You came to see the man of the hour. He's Rivali from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Subaru from ReZero, Mista from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, just to name a few. He's a legendary entertainer and Twitch.tv's very own Sonic Mega. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one, the only, Sean Chiplock. Sean, how you doing today?
Oh my God! Like, how am I supposed to follow that up? That's like the best introduction I've ever been given on this sort of interview. What's up, man?
I'm doing dandy as candy, Sean.
You honestly get kudos because I think you're one of the few interviews I've done this year that pronounced every single character name correctly. So, and that's you know what? You laugh, but there was a gig that I booked earlier this year. It was a promo audition for a bunch of anime figurines. And it was on Voice 123, and I will never forget. When I auditioned, the guy who hired me said part of the reason why you got the job was out of 50-something people who auditioned, you are one of 2 people who pronounced all of the character names correctly. But you also happen to have kind of that youthful, high-energy vibe that we were going for. Like, you sounded like the demographic that we were projecting to. So between those 2, it was a no-brainer, and it was like, I'm so glad that knowing that it's not pronounced Sasuke was enough to give me the job.
It's like, never underestimate the guy with the blonde hair, because, you know, it turns out we know what we're doing.
Yeah, right?
All right, guys, we have a fully stacked episode tonight, so I want to jump right into it, including 2 presentations. So without further ado, Sean, I said a lot about it into the intro. You know, you're a household name, you know, legendary entertainer. A lot of people that are watching right now, either live on Facebook or later now on YouTube, know you from either Twitch, your voiceover work in games, video games, anime shows, whatever. But what I want to get down to is where we got here. How did we get here? Where did it all begin? Was this always the plan, or did something happen later in life that kind of brought you to where we are today?
A late night triplicate of Boredom, Adult Swim, and Neopets.
Oh yeah.
It happened in late December of 2006, and I've got to be honest with you, you know, it's like, did I always know I'd be doing this? Apparently the hints were there, but it didn't really click until a certain video like explained to me that voiceover was a thing. Because when I was way younger, my younger brother and I would be playing Nintendo 64 games, and we grew up during that magical era where games started having dialogue, but they didn't have voices because, you know, the voice files would have been too big for the little cartridge. Sure. So we would take turns just giving voices to the characters. But as weird as this is to explain, I didn't process that the thing that we were doing on the couch at home was what people actually did when we would watch cartoons, you know, where characters would speak. It didn't occur to me that that was the same thing. So fast forward many years later to I think it was my sophomore year of high school, either sophomore or junior year. And I was someone who I did relatively well in all the subjects in school, but I wasn't interested by anything. Like, math was my best friend until pre-calculus happened, and then we weren't on speaking terms for the rest of my life. Science was great. I really enjoyed chemistry until that involved math, and I was like, hey, I divorced you. Why are you? Stop hanging around. I'm going to get a restraining order. And it was just that way for all the subjects, you know, literature, history. It was stuff. It had elements that I enjoyed, but not something where I was like, I want to devote a major portion of my life to this. So I would end up spending a lot of my free time at home on just like gaming stuff. I'd be playing Pokemon, I'd be playing MapleStory, I'd be playing Neopets. And I didn't really have a direction in my life yet. And then one evening, I'm staying up late as I normally am because Toonami, which is a great excuse all on its own, and Neopets dailies, which when you lived in the Midwest, they reset at 3 a.m. So I got to be up that late, you know? I'd usually get to bed around 3:30, 4 o'clock. And Adult Swim was just hammering advertisements for its website during that time, and they were so annoying. They were so annoying with the way that they advertised, and it worked because I ended up going to that website in the end because the TV won in annoying me. And while I was there browsing some Adult Swim games and stuff like that, they had a preview clip for an upcoming episode of a little anime you might have heard of called Trinity Blood, whose lead was voiced by Troy Baker. Yeah, a relatively unknown name, not a lot of people. I've heard of him. Whatever. Um, but so I watched the video, and it wasn't the clip itself that was interesting, but it had little factoid bubbles that would pop up about the episode. I don't know if you were old enough to remember MTV's Behind the Music Video, when they would like show music videos and then like little facts about it would show up throughout the music video. Like, this was recorded on this date, or this singer did this thing around the same time.
I was at like the tail end of that.
So it was like that, but with an anime clip. And one of them took you to a side video that showed the process of recording that moment on screen that just happened. And I'm watching this side video, and it's showing Troy Baker in the booth as he's recording for Abel Nightroad. It was a split screen. It showed Troy Baker in the booth. It showed the actual scene that was being dubbed in the center. And on the right was the director, doing their thing, like, just punching in, talking to the actor between takes. And it was that moment when I saw him talking to the mic at the same exact time that the character's lip flaps were moving on screen. That was when everything that I had done up until that point went, and I was like, oh, I get it now. And at that point, it just embraced me. It captured me and wouldn't let go. And it's like, I still don't fully understand what this is that I'm looking at, but I know that I want to be a part of it. It was that connection of, here's a human being, which I also am, doing something related to this cartoon, which I'm also doing, or I also enjoy. And this human being is talking a lot, which I also do. It's a natural fit. So it was that moment that I decided I wanted to get involved, and I bought this crappy, like, 5-cent microphone off of Amazon. And in the beginning of 2007, literally January 1st, I started voice acting. And it's really just been a constant dedication from there. And I'm incredibly grateful that it's something I'm now doing full time for my income, because between you and me, with the exception of Twitch as of this year, if I didn't have voice acting, I don't know what I'd be doing. So,
well, luckily you've made quite the name for yourself, and plenty of characters that we're actually going to talk about right now. The first one being, I'm sure you're all familiar with this one, Rivali from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, we have a lot to talk about with this character, including an embarrassing admission by yours truly. But before we get to that, I want to know your experience with the character. Were there any kind of maybe some unique approaches to it that you may not have done for other ones? Or just tell me all about how you got Rivali and just kind of what has Rivali meant to you?
So what's really funny is a lot of people see Rivali as the character that I broke into with Breath of the Wild. But what's ironic is Rivali was a character that showed up as an opportunity in the middle of the project after I had already been cast. Out of the 3 characters that I voice in Breath of the Wild, the only one that I've been cast as to start with was the Great Deku Tree, which may seem very strange when you're hearing me talk in my nasally high head voice right now. It's like,
the voice he was cast for was much deeper and much, further down here.
Like a drop of a hat.
Right. It's hard to do when I'm like tensed up like this. I have to be like standing up straight, access to my stomach, relax every muscle in my body. I'm very much a method actor. I have to physicalize it.
Okay.
But without going into too much detail, because I only know like part of the story, what I understand is that in the process of recording for Breath of the Wild, Rivali, who had already been cast, encountered something. And for whatever reason, they were now looking for a different voice for the character, which for all I know, sometimes they cast a person, they do the first session, and then they realize that it's not working out as well for the character as they wanted in the grand scheme of things. I've had it happen to colleagues. I'm waiting for it to happen to me. It's just a part of the industry. So we're in the middle of a session for Great Deku Tree, and they say, hey, we happen to be looking for a voice for this bird guy. Would you be interested in taking a stab? And me, I'm a yes man. If you say, would you like to take an attempt at this? I am more than happy to try. If it doesn't work out, great. But I'm not going to say no to a free attempt, So they show the video. They show the sample scene that we'll be dubbing. And what's important to note is the moment that scene started playing, I started squealing like a schoolgirl, legitimately. I was just so excited by what I was seeing on screen and how majestic this dumb bird butt looked that I was giggling to myself. What I didn't know was that on the other end of the window, the director was on a joint Skype call with higher-ups at Nintendo, who were now listening to my grown-up professional ass nearly crying in excitement over how much I fell in love with this stupid bird after only knowing him for 30 seconds. And I like to think that that actually played a part in them considering me, because they're like, hey, we're a teamwork-oriented group. We're a passionate group. We want people who will bring that same kind of passion to this project. His voice can work for the character. He's clearly excited about the opportunity. Why not go for it? So I read the sample. They ended up choosing me, and the rest is history. And Tebo was the same way. We were recording for Rivali, and they said, hey, we have this other Rito who we haven't cast yet. Would you be able to make him sound different from Rivali and the Great Deku Tree? Clearly, I was able to, and so that, the rest of that is history. But I've gone so far off your original question, but I think I remember what was my approach to the character. I hate Rivali, man. He was such a jerk to me. So I understood that he was a confident character. I understood that he didn't think very highly of Link, but initially the direction that I went with his cocky confidence was closer to what had happened for other dubs of the character, which was that he was eccentric, that he liked to put on a show, that he was someone who performs for an audience and has confidence in his abilities. And he wants you to be convinced that he is the best. Whereas the direction that they were trying to guide me for the character was that, no, he's confident because he kind of is the best, in the sense that he trained himself and he only allowed himself to show off his ability when he was absolutely sure he had mastered it. He did not want to let down the people of his village. He did not want to let down the princess that he was in charge of helping protect. That's where the confidence is coming from. Not from selling himself, but because he can walk the walk as well as he talks the talk. So that was a struggle for me, because I had to rewrite everything that I had ingrained in my brain about the character and start over from square one on short notice. And that terrified me for reasons I mentioned previously, which was, hey, this is the first canon fully voiced Zelda game since certain other titles that we are wont to mention in this interview. If you mess this up, you're going to have people comparing it to that till the end of time. Don't mess up. So it was very, very important to me that I not only hold myself to the standards that I would expect of the company, but also hold myself to the standard that I wanted for the character. Because in that moment, we can argue now who loves him more, because I've seen the fandom at times, but in that moment, there was nobody in that room or on that team that cared more for that bird than I do, and I was going to make sure that I showcased it in my performance.
And on that note, when I was first playing the game, I hated Rivali. And until I played the game more, until I realized I hated him because I am Rivali. Overconfident to a fault, very showy, but then when I actually mess up, oh man, the world's ending. And so I fell in love with Raleigh for that. And I mentioned an admission that I wanted to make light of before we go into the next question, and that is, when this game was first announced, and you touched on it a little bit, this is the first in a while, aside from some aforementioned games, where the first main series of A Legend of Zelda, which is a globally beloved franchise, that included full voice acting. Yes. And a lot of people were upset about that. And I'll be honest, Sean, and every single person watching, I was absolutely 100% without a doubt one of those people. I was not looking forward to it. I may have even said some bad things leading up to it.
Oh, I know. I did background research on you.
Oh, did you? Okay, so there you go.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
However, we get into the game. I'm playing it. I start to change my mind. And I will admit this to the end of time, the thing that turned me around was Rivali. All of your guys' performances were fantastic. Proved me wrong left and right. Admittedly, not a hard thing to do. Right. But your performance was Rivali. I fell in love with the character after I finally realized, of course, I am Rivali. And so that leads me into my question, that with this being a globally beloved franchise, but yet the first kind of entry that involved full voice acting, was there ever any pressure while voicing Rivali in there, or did you kind of just take it in stride?
So it's an interesting question to answer because there absolutely was that pressure the first time. And I always find it funny when people compliment me on the quality of my performance for the first game, because I'm going to be totally honest with you. To some degree, I didn't know what I was doing during the first game. Like you could say, you can tell me you did such a great job. And my response is, awesome. I'm not entirely sure what I did, but I'm really glad that it worked out. And the reason for that is, as the aforementioned, I had to reset all of my, let me mute my phone real quick because all the fans are trying to me now.
I was worried that was mine.
No. The aforementioned stress that I went under when I was trying to rewrite my understanding of Rivali was in fact so stressful on me. And this isn't the first time I've mentioned this. When we took a break during that first session, I called my mentor and broke down crying because I was so worried that whatever led to Rivali getting a new voice was going to happen again, that I was going to miss out on my chance to represent him, or that I was going to keep doing this without having a full understanding of what I was doing, and I was going to mess up, and it was going to result in a performance where people were like, okay, like, you know that feeling. It's like, it could have been worse, but whatever. It's nothing to write home about. And I'm for that reason, I am so grateful for my director, for the dev team, for the engineers, like for the people who were there to guide me when I needed guidance until I felt confident enough. Because there was a point in the game where it's like, okay, I've reset. I get what I'm doing now. I'm in the right headspace. I can take the reins back. And when they recognized that, they let me go ahead and do it. But before then, I was leaning on them so heavily, their shoulders were probably sore afterwards. So I owe a lot of thanks to them. But what's interesting about you saying that is, I have observed the overall performance quality, not just of myself, but of the whole cast, exponentially increase as the games have gone on. And I'm talking about between the original Breath of the Wild, the DLC for Breath of the Wild, and now Age of Calamity, which recently came out. Because Breath of the Wild, okay, I was in it. I didn't suck, but I honestly feel like I wish I had understood the character more and faster. The DLC, immediately, like I point out characters like Mipha, Amelia Gotham. I think Amelia was the best performance of the DLC for Breath of the Wild. And I say that with 100% confidence. How quickly she grew into the character and just improved, just how good she sounds was incredible to witness. And also the things that I learned through the DLC helped me understand what they were telling me back during the original recordings for Rivali. It was like, oh, if I knew this about him back then, as opposed to now, everything would have made way more sense. So during the DLC, I was like, I get it now. I understand why he is the way he is, and I was way more confident with the character. And then we fast forward to Age of Calamity, which just recently came out. Age of Calamity is like I listen to myself play and I go, this is not just the cast members I hear. This is the characters. When Rivali speaks, believe it or not, I don't hear me performing as Rivali. I now hear Rivali talking as Rivali. It makes sense now. I understand. And I'm just so grateful and so excited that all the same people were able to stay together for the most part, that we all grew into our characters, that we were able, by the time of Age of Calamity, to just come in and have no guesswork to be made about our characters or about the world or about what was happening, which meant all that space that previously was reserved for guesswork and puzzle solving could now be devoted to just playing and having fun and exploring our characters, and it shows. So I believe you, and I'm grateful for your compliment. And I also tell people, if you enjoyed Breath of the Wild in terms of performance quality, please, I'm begging you, go play Age of Calamity. Or if you're not a person who enjoys Dynasty Warrior games, go watch a YouTube cutscene splice of Age of Calamity, because holy crap, it's so good.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there, because you're looking at a guy who's not really into Dynasty Warriors. However, obviously I was a big fan of the original Hyrule Warriors, the remake, or rather the complete edition that came out later. And then I actually bought Age of Calamity the day it came out. And I'm not a Dynasty Warriors guy, but it doesn't feel necessarily like a Dynasty Warriors.
When the credits rolled, when I'm actually going to be streaming later, right after this interview, to do the post game, we're gonna rescue you know who. But when the credits rolled on my Twitch stream, when I finished the game, I went, this feels like I just finished a Final Fantasy game. This doesn't feel like I finished a Dynasty Warriors game. There was this was an RPG. This was not a Muso. So it's weird, man. And I'm telling you right now, I will not be surprised if they did this to get another set of the crowd into the franchise and get them interested in playing Breath of the Wild before Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. I think it's one of those games that they were like, we're going to provide the prequel so that people are ready for the sequel. And it's got me hyped up, man. I think there's going to be some crossover between these games.
The folks over at Nintendo know what they're doing. All right, and speaking of video games, technically not a great transition, I want to next talk about one of the hottest animes out there right now. Hottest is in popularity. Don't take that out of context, anybody.
Okay.
I want to talk about ReZero. Specifically, I want to talk about Subaru. Now, like I said, I want to know a little bit about the experience with the character, maybe some nuances you approached with it, and anything else before we kind of dive deeper into it.
Oh man. Okay. So you got to give me like 30 seconds because there's an AMA channel that I have on my Discord server.
Oh yeah.
And I answered a question like this recently regarding Subaru, and I want to see if I can find it.
This is very meta. I'm digging it.
Okay, here we go. So someone asked, this might sound vague as hell and poorly worded, but out of the characters you voiced, who do you feel you relate to the most? And I brought up Subaru, and I said, Subaru is an idealistic bastard who tries way too hard to do everything perfectly, thinks so little of himself that he figures his stress and sacrifice are worth it as long as others benefit that he cares for, disbelieves that someone would actually love him the way that he loves others, and has a penchant for getting in way over his head because he's confident that even if he's out of his element, determination and a willingness to learn will manage to carry his sorry ass to the flames even if he gets burned a few dozen times along the way. And I said, something about that seems familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Just a hunch. Just a hunch. No, but really, that really is Subaru in a nutshell. It's, a lot of people have said that they hate the show because they hate Subaru. And what it turns out to be is that they hate Subaru because Subaru reminds them of elements of themselves. And the show is very heavy-handed in going, hey, you see this? You see what you represent? That won't amount to anything in a world like this. And you have to stop being like that before you'd make any progress. Otherwise, you would suffer. And you'd suffer just as much as he did. And a lot of people aren't willing to accept that. But I see a lot of myself in Subaru. I see the determination to help out people that he feels have been wronged. The idealistic nature of, if I commit myself to this, then I can find a way through. I can't just give up because that's failure. Even the episode where he pours his heart out to Rem and says, why would you choose someone like me? Why would you settle for someone like me when you're guaranteed to find a better option along the way? Just spare yourself the effort. I have had that conversation with my wife, who has assured me that she loves me to the ends of the earth and could not see herself ever leaving me. And, it's becoming easier to believe that, but there's still that part of me that's like, yeah, but man. The yeah, but will eat you alive if you let it. And it's something that I still deal with and struggle with to this day. So Subaru sucks, and that's why I root for him.
Oh my. I mean, I definitely took me a little bit to get to like him. And definitely as the show progresses, he definitely undergoes that character development, definitely comes into more of his own. But I can definitely see where you're coming from in the fact, because a lot of people, it's a very divisive argument whether you like Subaru or not.
Yes.
Rather, I mean, obviously everybody likes Ram and Rem, but Subaru, I would say, is definitely the backing of this show. And
for sure.
Especially also a lot of the comics.
Literally as well as metaphorically. One fact I like to give about the show is at one point my director alerted me to the fact that there was a set of 4 episodes, one of the next portions of the season that we were working on. Within those 4 episodes, Subaru's line count total was higher than the combined total of every single other character or sound effect that occurred in those 4 episodes. All of them. So I'm just throwing out a number here, but like everyone else, literally every other line in those episodes combined was like 2,587, and Subaru's was like 2,893 or something like that.
Oh my god. I mean, and honestly, guys, if you haven't checked out ReZero, I mean, obviously you've heard of it because, like I said, it's one of the hottest animes out there, but I do highly recommend it. And definitely, if you're turned off by Subaru at first, definitely give him a shot, because there's a lot to unwind and kind of like digest with Subaru. And I definitely agree with all of the things you said about Subaru.
I have heard, and I fully agree with this, that season 2 is better than season 1, but you can't go into season 2 unless you've seen season 1. But season 1 is worth watching. But the TLDR of it is, what you will feel after watching all of season 1 will generally happen on its own after each episode of season 2. It's worth it. It's worth going in, man.
Sure.
It is. You can be done with season 1 in a single, if you want to binge, you can be done with season 1 in a single 12-hour, 13-hour day. It's only 25 episodes. And then season 2, part 1, there's only 13 episodes out right now because they're waiting until January. You could be completely caught up in a single weekend if you wanted to be.
Yeah, go ahead and do it. I mean, after you're done watching this, obviously, but yeah, go ahead and do it.
And it's 100% free on Crunchyroll at this point. You support the industry if you're financially able to and want to, but all of season 1, English dub or Japanese sub, I don't care, however you want to watch it, is up on Crunchyroll for free. You don't have to have an account to view it at this point, and I'm pretty sure at this point, season 2, part 1 is the same way. So,
yeah. Well, speaking of great animes, I want to talk about an anime who has one of the most passionate communities out there. I want to talk about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yes. ADHD, the anime series.
Oh my God. And you voice Mista, which, the gun-slinging yelly boy, as I like to call him.
And his stand. All 6 of his bullets.
So I want to know all of your experience with the character before we kind of dive deeper into Mista.
Okay.
So,
sorry, I must have missed the question. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to know, like, what was it like voicing the character? Your experience with it? Any unique?
So, yeah, I tend to have, once you really look at the characters that I voice time and time again, you start to see a lot of similarities. This character can be a little hot-headed. Oh, they're fiercely loyal to their friends. Oh, they're a little bit of a wise ass. Like when you break it down into these basic tenets, you start to see the overlap. The Venn diagram gets real common across these characters. But that's what I enjoy about Mista is he's the mafioso member who kind of relishes when he can in being a mafioso member. Like I think of the boat scene where he's the right before the torture dance where he's like, just kind of hunched over the guy's head and he's like, you better start giving us the info that we want or we're gonna mess you up. Like he pipes it up, he plays it up. And JoJo itself is also a series that loves packing 5-minute monologues about what's happening into 30 seconds of actual real world action time. And it's so silly. It takes itself so seriously, but not at the same time. And playing a character like Mista in a show like that, where he's just as quickly bantering with the bad guy of the week as he is bantering with his stand that he kind of needs to rely on to take care of the bad guy. He's a fun character. He gabs on and he makes fun of everything and he focuses when he has to. And I love his personality.
And, JoJo is also a very, and with most shonen anime, there are a lot of fight scenes, and Mista in particular definitely isn't one to mince words. So I wanted to ask you, maybe not necessarily just Mista, but with all of your roles throughout the years, how do you, when you know going in that you are going to have a pretty throat dexterous day, how do you prepare for that and maybe like after the fact recover after you've shredded your throat to hell?
So the best preparation for a session is to be prepared days in advance. And I mean, that means like staying hydrated. That means not performing other stuff that may be strenuous in the days leading up to it. It's really a great exercise in time management. Because there's no easy way for me to show a schedule, or my schedule, because it involves a lot of shows, some of which I can't talk about yet, some of which I probably shouldn't be discussing the recording process because some companies don't want to share that kind of info. But in particular, between the mid-September and the beginning of November, every single weekday, I had 2 or more sessions. And I mean, every single weekday, I had at least 2 recording sessions. And that was before any streams or anything else I did. And every weekend, I had an interview or something like this going on. And it got to a point where I had to tell myself, either you need to figure out how you're going to fit all this work in without destroying your throat, or at some point before the end of this, you're going to wear yourself out and you're going to miss either a solid week of work that you then have to make up later, or you're going to miss it and they're going to have to fill in for you with somebody else. And, you know, I'm all for, if I literally can't perform, I don't want anyone to be held up.
Sure.
But if I can keep the work, I want to keep the work, you know?
Sure.
So it just became a mix of, okay, what time is free for auditions? Do I have free time tonight? Am I in a condition to be recording again, or should I just rest because I know that I'm going to have something intense going on? Or better yet, this kind of like understanding of, I have a morning session on Wednesday and the afternoon is free, but I expect Wednesday morning to be strenuous. Should I offer that afternoon, or should I play it safe and tell people I'm not available after that? Should I take the vocal rest? You know, a big point was when I did Noob Saibot for Mortal Kombat 11. That was a role that was qualified as strenuous under the union rules, which was they cannot book you for longer than 2 hours, and it gets paid at the full 4-hour rate because it's the vocal stress as if you'd been talking for 4 hours. And I made sure, I demanded that any of those sessions for Mortal Kombat be the last ones that I do for the day, because after those, no, I'm dead serious. After those sessions, I would tell my wife I'm on vocal rest, and that meant I would write out whatever I needed to say to her, but I would not talk for anywhere between 12 to 36 hours after those sessions.
Oh my God.
For real. No, we would honor it. Like, it would suck not being able to like, say I love you or something like that. But, you know, we came up with codifications. We, you know, blow kisses to each other or stuff like that. But it's literally that case where my voice is my instrument. It's not, I hate that I'm bringing this up, but in America, most jobs, not only can you work while you're sick, they expect you to. Yeah. But in voiceover, if you audition while you're sick and you can't replicate that voice when you're healthy and they book you, you're going to get in deep trouble. If you damage your throat and you can't perform, you can't work. There's no 2 ways around it. You can't fake that you're healthy and pretend it. It will show itself in your throat no matter what you want to do, or it's going to sound forced or sound strained. So you have to always be taking care of yourself, drinking water, staying hydrated, knowing your limits. It's a daily thing. It's a daily thing. Even just right now, I swear I'm almost done with this answer. You know, looking at this week, I can see that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I've got 2 things going on every single day. Thursday and Friday, you know, I've only got 1. But I have to decide, am I going to make that time open? Am I going to use the time in between those sessions to take care of auditions? You just figure out where to slot these things, and you better understand yourself the more that you do it. But it's always active cognizance of what work lies ahead and what your current status is.
Well, it's just a very responsible way to look at it.
You have to treat it like a business. You really do. Because if you want to keep making money from it, and if you want it to be your source of income, then you have to treat it as though if you don't take good care of yourself, you're going to lose that source of income, and there's nothing you can do about it. And for a lot of actors, nothing hurts more than sitting around with a torn throat going, I want to be working, but I can't. And I don't know when I'll be able to again.
Well, and then speaking of your busy schedule, there is one thing that you definitely do a lot of that I want to talk about a lot. So a lot of people, obviously we all know this in today's society, it kind of seems like everybody has a Twitch channel nowadays. However, I have noticed ever since doing this show, an interesting phenomenon that voice actors, and we've had previous voice actors on the show that also do Twitch very successfully. Of course, Derek Stephen Prince, Bryson Bogus, and of course, Sean Chiplock. And I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, you guys just fucking get it. You guys get how you can interact with your audience while also providing very entertaining content. But with that said, guys, we've got a call to action, if you will. I'm gonna bring it up real quick. And Sean, I want you to tell us all about kind of why you decided to get into Twitch, and kind of what you do on your channel, you know, the kind of content that you provide, and that call of action that I referred to, that what you're trying to do with this channel. Now, give me 1 sec to bring it up. All right. There it is.
There we go. All right. So I tell people that Twitch is my favorite mistake because the whole thing with Twitch started because I was trying to find a way to fill time. It was a combination of a lot of my pursuits in life happen as a combination of interest plus opportunity. For a couple years already, I had been wanting to stream. I was interested in touching it or testing the waters with it, seeing if it was a good fit for me. But the two big excuses that I gave were, I don't know if I have the time and I don't know if I have the space. And that opportunity came as a result of COVID. The preface that I have to give is it really came about because of, to some degree, from boredom. Because the last time that I had a lot of downtime with nothing to do in my career, I ended up working at Disney California Adventure. Like literally there were a couple weeks of like, oh, work has really slowed down. I'm sitting at home gaming for 8-12 hours a day. You know, it was fun at first, but now I'm getting really antsy and I want to make sure that I'm actually that I actually know what I'm doing in this career. And that's when a friend alerted me, which in fact it was Joe Hernandez, the voice of Daruka Nunobo, who said, hey, we've got auditions coming up for Turtle Talk at California Adventure. If you're around, you should try out for it. I can let them know that you're going to try out. It's like, yeah, sure, why not? Got the job, started working at California Adventure. And the only reason I had to leave like a week after my 90-day probation period was up was because about a month into getting that job, I booked ReZero. So now all of a sudden I was doing, screamy episodes on top of, doing my performances for Turtle Talk. And it was like, I can't do both of these. That was one of those moments, we just got off of the question of, how do you handle doing these performances and keep your throat intact? That was one of those moments where I had to look at it and go, I can't do both of these. I'm gonna destroy my throat, possibly permanently, if I don't make a choice. I need to figure out which of these is more important to me. And I ended up deciding to focus on voiceover. So going ahead to the pandemic, after the initial month where there was nothing going on, I went, I can't be doing this every single day. I've got to stay active somehow. And I'm sure that a lot of other voice acting colleagues came to the same conclusion, which was, I want to engage with people. I want to be involved. And that's where streaming came in. I went, okay, well, I definitely have the time now. I might as well figure out if I have the space. And I got help from some tech people. I found out that there wasn't that much equipment required. I know a lot of popular streamers will do like the green screen and the face lamp and stuff like that, but it's not mandatory. As long as my main focus was, I want to have a clean streaming setup. It doesn't matter how good I look if the Switch game that I'm playing is being broadcast at potato quality. And thanks to help from an amazing individual named, he goes by Mike Feedback or Mike to Microphone, who he's a Twitch partner already. He helped set me up with the tech specs, and I just started. I hit the ground running. I went for it. And the reason why I say favorite mistake is about a month after I started Twitch streaming, right as I got into the groove of it, the work started coming back. So now, all of a sudden, I am coupling a busy work schedule, which, by the way, has never been busier than it was during the most recent couple of months during the pandemic. Once people figured out that I could record from home and that it was broadcast quality, it all started coming in. So now I'm coupling that with these Twitch streams, which I'm trying to keep consistent, not just for my community, but for myself as well. Because I'm a person of routine. If I'm going to stick to something, I've got to make myself stick to that routine. Otherwise, it's really easy to fall off the boat. And in a way, it's kind of, I started the Twitch stream as a personal hobby. Like, hey, I just want to do this because there's moments where I'm playing games where I'm like, I want to share this experience with people who want to watch. I liken it to a more public version of Discord streaming, like, hey guys, I'm playing this game. It doesn't matter whether you want to sub or not, but if you want to watch me play the game and provide commentary, we can discuss what's happening together. Let's go for it. And I take that same approach now, where I don't care about subs, and that's probably why Twitch will never partner me. It's not important to me that I make money off of my Twitch. It's important to me that people who want to watch are having a fun time. And so that's been my big goal is hitting partnership, because a lot of people have reached out and said, hey, we should do a stream together. Have you considered, joining this group for like multi-streams of like Among Us and stuff like that? And I know that there's certain perks that partners get that aren't accessible to affiliates. Because I'm gracious or grateful enough that or I'm lucky that I was able to hit affiliate almost instantly. And I attribute a lot of that to having a support base built through my years of voice acting. So now it's just that home stretch. It really is. We've got the hours recorded. We've got the average number of viewers, which we just need to keep up. I already applied for partnership once, but they said, okay, well, you hit the metrics, but we want to see if you can continue building your community a bit more. And it's really just aiming for that partnership so that I don't have to care about the numbers anymore. Because it's one of those things where I don't know if you guys have a Twitch channel or if you're partnered or anything like that. Are you?
No, I'm personally not. No.
Okay. Just basically, my understanding is once you hit partner, you don't, as long as you remain active and you don't violate Twitch's terms of service, you don't have to hit all of the same metrics permanently to keep partnership. Like one of the metrics is having an average of 75 viewers. And my understanding is even if you dip down to like 50 average viewers after hitting partner, as long as you're active, they're not going to revoke it for suddenly falling below those metrics. So to me, that's the main goal is I'd like to hit partnership, get access to those extra perks that I can use to give back to the community or work with other Twitch streamers and not have to care about how many people are tuning in. No different than I imagine a lot of people dream of a financial future where they can make a purchase and not immediately have to check their bank account, if you understand how that feels,
So how can the folks watching at home help you attain this goal?
I stream 5 days a week. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, generally sometime between 5 and 6 p.m. Obviously, tonight I'll be starting a little later since we have the interview going on. Really the best way is just tune in. Like literally, I make an announcement on my Twitter every time I stream. If you want an easier notice, I have a Discord, which is discord.gg/Hasen, HASN. And there's an incredible community. Like I owe so much to my moderators and even just the community members themselves for making it such a welcoming place. And if you want to tune in, great. If you don't feel like tuning in, there's no obligation. I'm not going to hold it against you. I try to produce content that everyone can be involved in without having to subscribe. For example, we have multiplayer Monday streams where I do Smash. Tomorrow is Tetris 99. We do Jackbox. We do Among Us. And anyone is welcome to join. You don't have to be subscribed. We have community events. We recently finished up with a live dub of Deltarune, where we had a mix of precast roles. We had volunteer roles that members of the community could spend points to claim a role and voice on it in voice chat as I played. And we had mock auditions. We had auditions in the community where people auditioned for certain roles. We put it to a community vote. I'm just always looking for ways to get the community involved so it's not just me talking to you for 4 hours. You can feel like you're actually a part of the growth of my channel. So, it's really up to you guys. Just check out the channel, check out one of the streams, see if it's your kind of vibe or if it's something you want to put on in the background. If you treat my channel as white noise, that's fine. You can lurk till the end of time and not once say anything in chat, and I will not be perturbed by that. So,
and guys, if you're watching this right now on Facebook, I got that link plus several others in the live chat, or if you're watching this later on YouTube, all those links, including the Twitch link, is going to be right down there in the description box below. And before we get done with this, while we're here, Sean, boom.
Aw, thank you.
Full disclosure, I was actually followed you beforehand, but I unfollowed you for that.
I will also say this much. It's also because of the number of giveaways that I do. Because typically whenever I stream a game that I have voiced in, I will end up inevitably giving away a couple copies. Like usually once on the first day that we stream it, once when we beat the game and the credits roll. And a fun fact is when Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, the Switch remaster came out, I recorded on that game. It was a single 4-hour session. I made about $800 before taxes. Over the course of the week-long marathon that I did for Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles S, I gave out over $1,100 worth of copies of the game. I think at one point I gave a Switch console away because the winner of the game didn't have a Switch console. I gave away more value of that game than I made voicing for it in the first place. It happens a lot and often very impromptu. So if you like free stuff, feel free to get involved, man.
Yeah, who doesn't like free stuff? Alrighty, guys. If you guys haven't already, you guys still have some time to either put your viewers' comments and questions either in the live chat here on Facebook or message Visioncon directly, your viewers' comments and questions. It is your last chance to do so, however, because ladies and gentlemen, we're in the plug zone. Sean Chiplock, now is your opportunity to plug, promote, advertise, whatever you want to do. The floor is yours, sir.
If there's one thing about me, it's consistency. Anywhere online that isn't a German Spotify account, if it's Sonic Mega, it's probably me. My Twitter is Sonic Mega. That's where all my new announcements regarding voiceover roles come out. That's where all of my memes come into existence. All of my shit posts. So Twitter's the big one to follow if you want announcements and heads ups. My Discord community, like I said, discord.gg/Hazen, amazing community. And I swear I'm not saying that out of bias. Like it's grown bigger than me at this point. Like it's out of my hands and I have to rely on my mod team and the users as much as myself to keep it in line. But it's in a good way. It's very wholesome. Everyone is very mature. I love the community to death. And we've already created so many great memories together. And then twitch.tv/Sonic Mega for the streams that I do. And outside of that, there's really not a lot. I know that there's Zobi V Shout if people are looking for autographs, and I'm more than happy to do those autographs. My only recommendation against it right now is the Postal Service is dealing with a lot at the moment because of recent election stuff and recent changes in management and just, COVID pandemic restrictions. So I am more than happy to sign your stuff. You can also mail stuff to me directly if you want, but I would consider holding off until we've got like the vaccine and stuff like that, just because of the risk that is there. But Zobi V Shout is there. They're taking orders. I just sent off a batch of stuff last week. So if you don't feel like waiting, if you need a Christmas gift, it's right there. You can do it. But outside of those three, that's really the main ways to interact with me. This may come as a surprise, but I tend to be really introverted. I value my free time. So when I'm done with my daily schedule, when I'm done with the stream, when I'm done with the announcements on Twitter, I'll tend to just shut down and spend time with my wife or like very, very close friends. So I thank people ahead of time for respecting that. But I promise, my DMs are always open on Twitter. I do my best to be super engaging on my stream. If I'm doing something in public where you have public access to me, I will do my best to engage with you. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm keeping you at arm's length. So when I'm private, I'm private. When I'm public, you have my time.
I mean, and that's honestly, how it should be. You're a person at the end of the day.
I am, and I want. I'm very grateful that you brought up that point, because one of the big things that I try to remind people, you mentioned at the very beginning of this that I'm a household name, which is surprising to me, to be honest. It's news to me, or that I might have some sort of celebrity status. I want people to remember that I just happen to be in a public industry. And a lot of what I do gets seen by a lot of eyes. There's a lot, public feedback I'm much more accessible than a lot of other jobs. That does not put me on a higher position than you. That does not make me more special than you. That does not make me a better human being than you. Anyone in my industry is capable of making mistakes or behaving inappropriately as anybody else. So all I ask is that people remember that I'm just like you. I'm another human being. I just happen to have a really fun job. And for all I know, your job is really fun to you. Like, I'm not going to make any judgments. But let's be people to each other. I'm not higher than you. You're not lower than me. I'm just here to have a fun time and entertain you and maybe make some friends along the way.
I'm not higher than you. You're not higher than me. We're all people. Oh my God. Put that on a shirt. I dig it.
I mean, unless we're at a convention in California and they recently legalized it, then we can both be higher than each other. It'll be a high competition,
Hey, I dig that. Alrighty, guys. And with that, we're out of the plug zone and going right into viewers' comments and questions. So like I usually do, guys, I'm just going to do it kind of 50-50. We'll do this real quick so Sean has a chance and all you have a chance to join the Twitch stream. But real quick, let me pull up the messenger first.
All right.
All right.
Excuse me.
Okay, so Raylene tuned in with two questions, actually. The first one being, who is your favorite Danganronpa character?
He's just dropping on me right away.
Going in hot.
Oh man, this is I'm trying to think if I want to pick one of the students or if I want to pick one of the Monokuma Cubs. I have to go with the Monokuma Cub that was voiced by Patrick Seitz.
Okay.
I gotta look up Monokuma. It's been a while, so I forget his name. Monokuma Cub, Patrick Seitz. Who does he voice? Mono Kid? Is that his name? Is that the blue one? Yes, Mono Kid, the rock star Mono Kid or Monokuma Bear.
Oh, yeah.
Just Patrick goes so ham on that role, and he's just like, whenever Patrick gets to like use that gruff, baritone voice of his that he's got, and just go all out with it. It's a great character. It's a great performance. Instantly sold me on them. Student wise,
You can choose your own.
No, I feel like Kiyotaka was he was kind of one note in terms of his personality, and I like characters with depth to them. So I want to say, was it Celeste, or who's the name of the girl who speaks in French? Is that Celeste?
I believe that's Celeste. It's kind of the Lolita-looking girl, a little bit.
Yes, Celestia Ludenberg.
Okay.
So I enjoyed her performance a lot as well. I enjoyed her accent. I liked the twists and turns that her character offered. So she just really spoke out to me. She was a really interesting character and one whose arc I wanted to follow.
And they also wanted you to know, this isn't so much of a question, so much as a statement. It said, I really appreciate if you would thank him for me for being Shin or Sheen from Doro Hidoro.
Yes.
Because I watched that when I was having a pretty hard time, and Sheen was always my absolute favorite. The show wouldn't be the same without him.
I love Dark Future Lucas, as I call him. If Mother 3 ended a different way, I feel like Lucas would have grown up to be Sheen in Doro Hidoro.
Oh my God, I never thought of it that way.
He was really fun because he was one of the first times, he was one of the first characters that I performed that was in my lower register, but who by that point in time, I feel like I had turned my lower register into one of my strengths. It's not as strong as certain other character archetypes that I play often, but I wasn't as scared about that voice type anymore. And so I was really excited to see how far I'd come with that type of voice with Sheen. And I feel like it worked out really well. There were some elements of familiarity, the wise ass, the guy who's like rolling his eyes, but when he would get into fights, he'd get really aggressive. He'd get really into it the same way Mista would. So not all of it was completely new territory for me, but I enjoyed the challenge of portraying a character who,
just tended to be down here and wasn't always as active and as loud as someone like Guido Mista was.
And I couldn't let him be boring. I had to make him an interesting character nonetheless. So it was a nice mix of new and old, and I really enjoyed what I did for the character as a whole.
All right, and so, okay, so Andrew tuned in and wanted to know about a character that we actually is a very big character, but we didn't really have time to talk about. Andrew said, "Hi, Sean. I was wanting to know, do you have any positive experiences or stories about Reen from Legend of Heroes?"
From Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel, like positive experiences as Reen. A lot of them I've talked about previously. There was the one where before I went in to record for Trails of Cold Steel, I learned as much about it as I could so that when I went in on the first day of the session and the localization director was about to explain to me the world and my character, I started asking her questions about stuff that didn't even happen until like the third game. And she wrote a blog about this, or part of a blog, where she's like, I just sat there going, how do you know this? You haven't even been in front of the microphone yet, and you're talking about this like side quest hidden boss character that she was just super taken aback by how much I knew. And it was, the whole process was really feel good because it was with PCB Productions. It was with a director who at that point I knew how to get the best out of each actor that they worked with. She cared for the industry as a whole. She was part of like a pioneer group in terms of tech advancement in the industry. The localization director was very easily the most passionate person on the entire team. She knew every single character inside and out. She knew every single event inside and out. And I owe it to her for being responsible for me understanding Reen and the world of Trails of Cold Steel as well as I did, which directly played into how authentic my performance was. Every time I came back to record for the next Cold Steel entry, it felt like I was coming back home to one of my other families. We all knew each other. We all knew what we were capable of. And we just... Sorry, my cat just did the longest stretch. Hold on. This is one of my other things I do on streams.
Oh, my God.
I might as well showcase him. Come here, buddy.
The cat cam.
This is my adopted son.
Look at him. What was
he's
it?
super chill. He visits every single day for food, and sometimes he falls asleep on the couch, and sometimes he cuddles me. Like a couple nights ago, my wife was trying out a new mattress, and so I just slept out on the couch, and he spent the whole night just chilling on my lap.
Oh
But
my!
He usually visits around this time because that's when I'm doing stream and that's when I'll give him dinner. And whenever he pops by, we'll take a break. We'll show the webcam. We'll give him some love, some pets. Maybe he meows for us, and we just go on with our business. So
He's a whole unit, and I love him.
he's very excuse me. He's very chill.
All right, guys.
All right.
We got one more from the messenger before we go to the live chat, since we're running a little bit over. Okay, so Lauren tuned in and wanted to know, hi, Sean. So I really loved you as Mishima from Persona 5. Was there any part of Mishima that you directly relate to?
The feeling of being left out.
Fair?
This is kind of ironic in a way, but, I deal with a lot of jealousy in this career. And for all the success that I've had, there's always going to be those projects where it's like, oh, I wish I could have been a part of that. Or, you see, you're so happy for the success of your colleagues, but you are always questioning, like, am I on level? Am I on par with them? Am I at the same level of skill that they are? And I identify a lot with that kind of pressure that Mishima feels, where, he puts all this effort into the fan site and he works to actively support the Phantom Thieves. But at the end of the day, it's the Phantom Thieves that go out and do all these cool things that are working together as a team. And Mishima is just kind of on the sidelines. Even now, that's kind of happening to some degree because I'm not blaming anybody for this. This is just how it turned out. But you mentioned how a lot of voice actors are on Twitch. And in fact, there's a team, there's Twitch teams, and there's one team called Mouth Noise, which has basically every Los Angeles, Texas voice actor under the sun that's part of that team. And I'm not in it. I'm not part of it. And this group does all sorts of things together. I've seen them play Among Us together. I've seen them play Jackbox together. And whether it's just because of how we conduct ourselves or how our schedules line up, there are a lot of times when I'm, as Sean, I'm just kind of off here doing my own thing on my own schedule, and I'm not part of that group. And I don't hold it against them. I don't think, I'm not trying to pin blame on anything, but it's just something that I process. It's they're over here, they're doing their thing, and I'm just kind of over here doing my thing. And there's this gap that I'm just aware of. And it's that same kind of gap that Mishima deals with, where between him and the Phantom Thieves. And why that's important is Mishima's role is not unimportant because he's not part of the Phantom Thieves. He helps out in his own way. He has his own means of, assisting them or making an impact or helping those around him that he cares about. It just happens to not involve what the Phantom Thieves do directly. But he has to work through that, and he has to accept that he can't let bitterness or envy or jealousy control his life and his behavior and his actions. He has to decide for himself what he wants to do on his own terms, and then whatever he chooses to do, he has to commit to it. Because if he bases his whole life off of what he thinks he should be doing or what other people want him to be doing, he might please them, but he's not going to please himself. So he has to find that balance of, if I feel like I'm falling short somewhere, what can I do to make up for that without losing who I am as a person in the process? And that's something I deal with every day, every week, every month, every ounce of this career. I have to make choices in regards to, what do I want out of my career? What can I stand to improve on? What am I willing to do to make changes to the stuff that I feel I'm falling short on without lying to myself and lying to my support base in the process. And it's an ongoing learning process.
Sean, you're very much somebody who's very in touch with who they are and how they're feeling. And I got to tell you, that's something I very much respect.
If only it didn't lead to 50-minute answers to 5-second questions.
Well, we got just 2 more before we wrap this up.
That's fine.
So first, Average Asian Cosplay tuned in, and it said a slew of things. The first one being VH1, which I assume is they were
it was probably VH1 behind the music video, not MTV.
MTV, yeah, something like that. But they also said you did a great job as Rivali and Subaru. I have cosplayed both, and also happy to have met you at NakaCon 2018.
Oh yeah, NakaCon was great.
Yeah. And then their question was, what is your dream VA job? So voice acting job.
Okay, this is a total cop-out answer.
Go for it.
I do have an answer for it, but I'm also going to touch base on how I usually answer that question.
Go for it.
So there's 2 that are possible and I hope happen. And I'm trying not to put all my eggs in one basket. But the first one is I would love to be part of an Etrian Odyssey dub if those come back. Because they dubbed Etrian Odyssey 4 and they dubbed Etrian Odyssey Untold 1 and 2. But for 5 and Nexus, it was just Japanese audio. They didn't do any dubs for it. So I don't know if they lost interest or if it wasn't selling well enough. But if it comes back, I pray it's actually when it comes back. And they choose to give it an English dub. I would love to be anything in that. And I mean literally anything. I could be a story mode character. I could just be a male voice option, like one of 20 that you can pick from when you create a member of your guild. Because Etrian Odyssey is what introduced me to dungeon crawlers. And it is by far one of the most respectable, interesting, genuinely challenging dungeon crawlers that I have played in my history as a gamer. And I miss it. I want it to come out on a platform that I can stream without having to modify the hardware, because 3DS you can't stream unless you do a whole bunch of stuff to it first. I want an Etrian Odyssey game to come out on Switch. I want to be able to show people how crazy I am about that franchise. And more than anything else, I want to be a part of it. Number 2 is, within the last year, a certain series called Mana, or the Legend of Mana series. There's Trials of Mana, there's Secret of Mana. Most recently, Trials of Mana came out last year on a couple different platforms. And because they have now remade the first 3 games in the series, and they have said, we are totally on board with remaking the entire series if there's interest for it, the next one in the franchise is the 4th game, Legend of Mana, which I have played and played again and played again on basically every PlayStation console that it's available for. Wow. And I know those characters like the back of my hand. I know the stories, I know the events, I know the characters, and I would love to voice any of them. Ilazul, Lark, Nicolo, Rubens, any of the Jumi, any of the dragons that take place in the Dragon Route. It's the same way that I looked at Crystal Chronicles. It was a major part of my childhood. In fact, Crystal Chronicles and Legend of Mana were like the 2 console games that I kept going back to over and over and over again.
Hell yeah.
So if there ever turns out to be an opportunity for me to be a part of Legend of Mana in an official capacity, it'd be the same kind of like heart-wrenching happiness that happened for me with Crystal Chronicles. Like, maybe it wouldn't be a big deal to most people, but it would mean the world to me. But outside of that, ironic, after I just gave another 5-minute answer, when people ask, what's a series you really want to be a part of, my answer generally is, I don't think about that. I don't, because it's not on me to decide what gets a remake or what, gets a remaster or what gets brought back or what people want to work on, what gets rebooted. And so I would rather focus on doing the best job that I can for every job that I have an opportunity with in the present, because who knows what the future is going to hold. Like when I moved out to California in 2012, I had no idea that 5 years later I would be voicing 2 birds and a tree in one of the most acclaimed Nintendo games of all time. There was no way I could have had the foresight for that. But I am now, and I'm grateful for it, and I'm glad that it led to stuff like Age of Calamity. So I don't know. It kind of ties back to the whole time management thing, which is my goal is to be so busy on a given day that I don't have the time to think about what I want to do in the future. I'm going to just focus on being the best damn performer that I can be at that moment, build up a solid portfolio of roles that people look fondly on and clients go like, hey, he was pretty good at this. I could see him playing this type of role in this future project of ours so that I can get future opportunities. That's really what it boils down to.
Well, scratch that, guys. We have another call to action. Hashtag Sean Chiplock for Legends of Model.
God, you know what? I told my agent, I said, listen, I don't know if it's going to be union, but please. I sent them a very concise but informative email that said, here's all the major keywords or key character names that you would probably see if they held a casting call for this game. Here's the basic description of the world so that you can look for it in the specs of a anonymized casting call if they like used code words and stuff like that. And I said, if you see anything that even remotely sounds like it could be this, tell me.
You gave him all the warnings.
I did.
Alrighty, and finishing us out, coming kind of out of left field, is my old boy Aaron, who wants to know, who's any favorite Pokemon?
My team of 6 that I always tell people is Luxray, Pidgeot, Gudra, Braixen. It's kind of difficult after this one.
Sure.
Did I ever say Espeon?
You did not.
Okay, Espeon is the big one. And then the 6th one changes. I think as of Sun and Moon, that one became Mudsdale or something like that. Just good type coverage, a whole variant of, or a nice team of, Pokemon that are fiercely loyal, Pokemon that are chill with. I've told people if I had to pick an evolution to have a cup of hot cocoa with next to a roaring Christmas fire, it would be Espeon. And just a sense of like, just a sense of attachment, a sense of bonding, like the idea of like soaring up in the skies on a Pidgeot, or, taking command of battle with a Luxray who has a terrible speed stat, but God help me, he's got a great attack stat. I tried the Pokemon competitive scene for a while. Too stressful. If I'm going to be salty over losses, I'd rather play Smash Brothers. So, but yeah, those are the 6 that really stood out to me.
All right, and that's a pretty good meta coverage as well.
Mm-hmm.
All righty, guys, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 41 of Visioncon Live. Now, before we wrap things up, Sean, any final thoughts or word of wisdom to leave us on?
Man, God, there's so many cheesy lines that I could give. Honestly, the best one that can come up is be good to yourself. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's voiceover. It doesn't matter whether it's a completely different industry. Having confidence in yourself and what you want is the first step to actually making the effort, because a big part of voiceover is that people are not going to just hand you opportunities. You have to go out and look for them. You have to go out and train yourself. You have to do the research, and it's going to be really, really hard to find the motivation to do any of that if you don't think you're capable of it in the first place. So whatever you want to do in life, the first thing you have to do is convince yourself that you are worthy and you are capable. And then once you believe it, figure out what your next step is from there and go for it. You'll be surprised what doors will open themselves to you if you are committed, if you are confident, and if you're passionate. It is very surprising what will happen when passionate people find each other and when passionate people want to support each other and help them succeed. So just take my word for it. If you are passionate in what you do and you're not, and you just go for it, you will find people who want to help you achieve what you want to achieve.
Saying you were going to give us a cheesy one-liner, then you hit me with that.
I hit him with the Reen speech.
Got caught me off guard. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 41 of VisionCon Live. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I, of course, am your host, Zach Wilson, but much more importantly, this has been my very special guest, Sean Chiplock. Make sure to check out all the links down in the description box below, and follow Sean and subscribe on twitch.tv/SonicMega. And until next time, guys, always remember that life's better when you have friends to share it with.